Hi, I'm Kane McCallum. I'm from the Hayward Huddle. Today is all about creating a kind of event for Jeremy Della's exhibition. The main objective of today is to get the other galleries integrated and talking and to communicate more. So first we're going to go and look at the gallery and just come up with ideas and words about his work and things that the work evokes to us. I'm going to be standing in the gallery and I'm going to hold up this gather sign at a specific time. Members from the other galleries have to come to me.
Hey guys, gather! And
then I'm going to pair them up so different galleries can talk. And then we're going to go up to the room and engage in a couple of activities. Jeremy's then going to come and have a talk and explain the concept of his work.
I wanted to make it exciting. It's 20 years of my life. I wanted the show to be a bit of a surprise. Each part have a little bit of a surprise to it. So it has a sort of theatrical, what I'd call a dramatic, theatrical theme to it in a way. So you can walk in that face and you walk in the mouth and you hear me talk about projects that I've done and there's people doing things. You can get a cup of tea. I wanted there to be surprises and I wanted there to be a sense of excitement maybe even. So when there's lots of people in the gallery, you feel it's kind of an exciting place to be.
I want you guys to come up with a word, just one word, that comes to your mind when you think of Jeremy's exhibition, and then throw it to someone.
Amazing.
Fun.
Weird.
Whoever wants to pose a question to Jeremy, feel free to do so.
Go for it.
Do you think it's right to take another person's work and put your name on it?
No, it isn't, but I don't do that, so I don't think I do that. You have to credit people where credit is due, as it were, so everyone is credited who's made work in the show or worked with me.
Retro.
What's the significance of using the live participant?
I like people, and I think it's good having something that's live in an exhibition. That's a bit unexpected, and also it's good that people, when they're in an artwork, they activate it, they make it alive, basically.
Would you say you're as much as a curator as you are an artist?
I'm a bit of both, but I'm more an artist than a curator. Because curators do things really carefully, and I don't. You know, they're professional, they fill in all the forms properly. I just go and do stuff and then have to pick up the pieces afterwards where I've sort of made mistakes.
Who's Gerald?
Who's Gerald? That's a guy called Gerald who made acid house music. Very, very good acid house music.
They've been pondering about this for a long time.
He did a really good song called Voodoo Ray. You should look it up. It's an amazing song.
But who's Jack?
Jack is a kind of music from Chicago. It's a kind of dance music.
Do you think that your work reflects an age?
I make art about times, certain times. So yes, certain times in music in Britain. Then there's stuff about the Iraq War, which is about a historical moment. The miners' strike, very much about a historical moment. Did you see that work with the map of UK and the map of Iraq and all the places were swapped over? Basically, what I wanted to do was, after the First World War and the Second World War, cities and towns were twinned with other towns. Either towns that had suffered in the war through bombing or towns of what was the enemy, as a way of people to get relationships going between countries that had been at war or had been in the same war. So I chose towns that weren't major towns in the UK. London obviously is there, but I didn't choose Manchester or Glasgow or Liverpool. I chose smaller towns that people don't really think about as much if they don't live in them. Because those are often the towns that gets damaged more. And also when you think of young soldiers, they often don't come from major cities. They come from smaller towns around Britain, poorer towns often. With the Battle of Orgreave. Now that was the reenactment of the riot in the miners' strike. Why did I do that? I did that to make people angry again. I didn't do it for a healing thing. I actually did it to make people angry and think about something that had happened near to them or to their family or to themselves. You know when a crime has been committed and the police, sometimes they do a reenactment, like a child has been murdered or abducted or some terrible murder. The police will reenact it or had the child walking down the alleyway and then they disappear and so on. And I did it like that. It was like recreating a crime scene for the public to look at this crime being committed. That's how I see it. So it was nothing about healing. It was the opposite.
Do you plan any art, or have you got any ideas or inspiration regarding the current Tory coalition government with the social health
That's a good question.
And the benefits?
If you saw in the show, there's work about what's going on now, as it were. There's the big mirror when you walk up the ramp. That's a photograph taken from a local paper in Poplar. of a day centre that was closing, and the guys outside are complaining about that. And then on those stamps, there's a couple of things. There's the stamp that says a group of people standing outside a closed day centre, and then there's another one that says hell is other people's money. There's a quote by John Paul Sartre, and it's called Hell is Other People, which is an amazing quote, but actually hell is other people, but it's also their money as well, because their money sends us crazy. It sends me crazy when I see people in big cars cutting me up on my bicycle and behaving badly. So if you don't have much money and you see that every day and you live in London, it just drives you insane.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the causes of the riots was that.
Yeah.
That people were just being sent crazy by seeing other people with lots of money flashing it around.
How important is it for you that the public interact with your work?
Sometimes it's essential, because if they don't interact in it, it doesn't exist. So people actually make it happen, literally, but also when they're in the space at the gallery, it brings it to life. So it's very important. So that's why I'm being very happy that so many people have seen this show, because it means that it's working and the art is working and it's come to life, really.
Do you actually think there's joy in people? If so, what kind of joy?
I didn't want this title. It was an accident. My title was going to be Animal, Vegetable, Pop Music, which is a bit of a weird one, I know. Or Local Artist was the other one, because I was born quite close to here. I mean, you're all from south, east, northwest, I take it, yeah? Okay, well, I was born in East Dulwich, so about 3 or 4 miles from here. But to be honest with you, and I'm being very honest now, I'm not a very optimistic person. I don't like a lot of people on the whole, and so I make art to make me interested in the world and keep me going. Because if I didn't do that, I don't know what I'd be like. But there can be joy in people sometimes. But for me, it's a bit too much of a positive title for an exhibition, but of course it's very good for marketing, and people like it, and the poster's nice. So I'm not complaining. Why failures? Sometimes from a failure you can get a success afterwards. But I think it's good to show that, because everyone thinks all these artists, they're so amazing, and they think they're amazing, and they're really up themselves and everything. So I just thought it was a good way of the end of the show, just everyone think, God, Jeremy's incredible. And then they see all these things I couldn't do, and they think, oh, actually, he's just like everyone else. He's a bit of a loser sometimes. And I quite liked that, people realising that you don't get, even when you're a big artist, you don't get everything you want. And it's important to be knocked down a bit from time to time. And to be frustrated, and to show that actually you don't always get the success. So that's why I wanted to show it. And it's quite funny as well to show failures.
This is carry on from failures. Is
Yeah.
there any work that you create that you actually hated, not anyone else?
That's a great question. Is there any work I regretted? Probably, but it's not in the show, so you'll never know about it. It's been buried. I killed it and buried it.
So you're not going to talk about it?
I can't think off the top of my head. I just try and forget the failures. A lot of questions about my failures. Don't like that. I want to end on a positive note. I think it's always good to fail at things, because it makes you realise you're not as good as you might think you are.
That gives me hope.
Yeah, exactly. All of us can give us all hope, because when people just think you're amazing, you do this and that, but actually a lot of people think you're an idiot, and so you get knocked back. And I think it's good, because you can go on to other things from a failure. Actually, they can lead to other things. And some of those failures might happen one day, but in different ways. In fact, a couple of them have. But it's good to show the original failure. That's a good question. How did I make a living? Well, I lived with my parents, so that made it cheap. Very cheap. I had part-time jobs. I worked in a shop, which was actually a lot of fun. Didn't pay very well. I was on unemployment benefit for some years, and then I had to leave that because I was on for far too long. But I did bits and bobs, really, and just got by. I mean, if you live with your mum and dad, it can be quite cheap if they don't charge you rent, and they didn't. So I wouldn't recommend it to the age of 31. That's when I left home.
What advice could you give to us 16-year-olds about to enter the world of art?
I would say just have your own view on things. Don't listen to people too much, because they can be wrong as well as right. Just keep going. And at the risk of sounding like some self-motivational speaker, just sort of believe in what you're doing and just think, well, actually, I'm pretty good, and I'll keep going. And just keep your eyes open and look around you, go to exhibitions, read books, watch films, and be inspired by other great artists. Sometimes you have ideas, you think, God, what would it be like if? And of course, often we never get to do it. But being an artist, you get an idea thinking, well, what would it be like if I remade a riot from the miners' strike with 1,000 people fighting each other in a field or in a village? What would that be like? And if you're an artist, you can actually do these things sometimes. Well, another thing was the car going across America. Took a car that was destroyed in Baghdad and toured it across America. You think, well, what would happen if you did that? And now I know what would happen if you did it. Luckily, we didn't get attacked and beaten up or whatever. We had an amazing trip across America. But sometimes you have to do things that maybe other people think are stupid or dangerous or whatever, because that's part of that's why you're doing it, really, because no one else is going to do it.
This is awkward. Inspirational. Awkward. Awkward.
Really handsome.